I'm going to open the meeting for Wakefield Conservation Commission for June 4th. First item on the agenda is to, well, I'm going to take a roll call to see who's here. Where's me? Ken?
Here.
Eleanor?
Here.
Haley?
Here.
I'm here. And Paul is not here.
The minutes are going to be tabled, Jimmy, because they're not finished.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's good. We'll get right to the, is the applicant here?
Can you just announce that 94 Butler is continued?
Yes, okay. So since you just heard it, I don't think I have to say it again, do I?
It's continued to July 2nd.
Okay. Is the applicant, is the applicant here for New England Power?
Yes, my name is Shona Patasteas. I'm here for New England Power. And I have Andrew Cole as well.
Okay. How do you want to do this? Do you want to present your project first?
I can, yes. I have I pulled together a couple of slides, a presentation, just to kind of show some of the highlights of the project. If I can share my screen.
Yep. Ken will take care of that, I believe.
Okay, can you see the screen?
I see it.
Excellent. Okay, so my name is, again, Shona Patasteas. I'm with BSC Group, representing New England Power Company. Andrew Cole is also in attendance, directly with New England Power Company. The project we're presenting tonight is the 339349 electric transmission asset condition refurbishment project. It's a, oh, this isn't working. Okay, so this is an existing right-of-way. It's an existing 345 kilovolt overhead electrical utility that runs kind of generally in a north-south direction, starting up at the, oops, sorry about that. Starting within the Reedy Marsh area, coming through kind of the center of town, and then the 349 transmission line comes into an existing substation, the Wakefield substation, and then continues kind of to the south, where it becomes the 339 line. It's interrupted by Saugus, so technically within the town of Wakefield, there's kind of two components where Saugus breaks through the middle, and then it continues down into Saugus once more. What's that?
I had a question.
Sure.
We're talking about the dark red line or the bright red line. Is that your power line?
Yep, this bright red line. Yep.
And the break that you show between the two is the station on Montrose Ave. There's
a station on Montrose Ave, and then in around the Saugus River, the town of Saugus, the town boundary also kind of splits the line in half. So this little break in between is where the town of Saugus interrupts the line before the line continues again in Wakefield.
So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The area that's in Saugus is the part of it that's in Breakheart. That's also.
Oh, Paul is here. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an existing transmission corridor. This line is one of, I believe it's three, depending on the location, about three different overhead electrical transmission lines within this corridor. So it's a fairly wide, very well-established corridor through the town. Within Wakefield, the 339-349 line is primarily suspended on tall wooden structures. It's two poles. They're called an H-frame. Two poles with a cross arm, and the cross arm suspends the wires, the conductor. There's primarily these wooden poles, but in some locations there's some single steel monopoles or structures of different kinds. The line was originally built in 1976, and I believe there was a cross-arm replacement project several years after it was built to replace the wooden cross-arms with steel. So this is kind of a depiction of what the towers kind of look like at the moment. You've got the that H-frame configuration with the conductor suspended through the middle. The project is to replace any of these wooden structures with steel structures that are substantially kind of the same sort of structure type. It's a steel H-frame. There's a little bit of a wider configuration for the most part and a little bit taller. But the kind of the footprint of each of the structures, where you have one for one is a very similar footprint. Other work will consist of these wires, the shield wires at the very top of the structure. That shield wire will be replaced with what's called an optical ground wire. It's a communication line as well as a shield line, which communicates between substations. And then where these structures are steel structures existing, they will not be replaced, but the overhead components, so the insulators and some of the other hardware will be replaced. So New England Power Company will be going to each of these structures, visiting each of the ones along the line within Wakefield. In addition to kind of the replacement of these structures, the access roads throughout the right-of-way, some of them will be repaired, some will be upgraded or stabilized. There's just kind of a general improvement of the access roads along the right-of-way.
There are access roads throughout the right-of-way?
There are existing access roads throughout the right-of-way. Most of the work within Wakefield is to just to repair kind of some of the existing. If on the environmental mapping that was submitted with the notice of intent, there's kind of three categories of access road repairs within the town. One is kind of that more straight maintenance where they might refresh some of the stone on top. One, there's an existing road, but they need to widen it out to 16 feet, perhaps, to accommodate some of the larger construction vehicles. And then there's a kind which is there's a sub base that they need to replace kind of the top of it. That's the type 1 access roads. Most of the components of this work are exempt maintenance because it is kind of a one-for-one structure replacement. They're replacing these direct embed wooden structures with direct embed steel structures. However, there are some locations where the structure type calls for a concrete foundation, and the footprint of that concrete foundation is larger than the current footprint of the structures. And in these locations, these are not exempt from Wetlands Protection Act because that footprint is just a little bit larger than the existing. And we've accounted for those within the application. I believe there's 2 particular structures within wetlands that will be replaced for a total of about 114 square feet of additional fill from that concrete foundation. So wetland resource areas along the right-of-way, there are many, particularly in the kind of the northern section, very large wetland complexes in the northern part of the right-of-way, the Reedy Marsh being one of them. There are some natural heritage habitats, both again on the north side and then on the south side, and then there's several vernal pools kind of on the southern section of the right-of-way. So I took a selection of different maps just to show kind of a representative view of kind of where the impacts are and what the extent of wetlands are within the project area. So this is off of Audubon Road, right at the border of Linfield. And this is the Reedy Meadows Conservation Area. And this is where we have these 2 structures that we need to replace with structures on concrete foundations. So these are the 2 structures that will have an impact and are not exempt from review. There's one of the existing structures is a 2-pole wooden H-frame, and the other is a 3-pole, and each will be replaced by steel 2-pole H-frame on a concrete foundation. Very, very large wetland areas. Each of the structures will be accessed through timber construction matting or something similar. This is laid down into the wetland area. The construction vehicles pass over, and then at the end of construction, those are pulled out. I will note that the construction matting, because it is accessory to a construction or maintenance project, is also exempt from review. This is a location off of Teal Road and 95. This is one of the other locations where we will be having a replacement of a kind of a direct embedded structure with those larger concrete caisson foundations. Typically, you will see those at where you need kind of a little bit of a stronger structure near highway crossings within, over river crossings. And in this case, this is the structure right before the I-95 crossing. So you have a kind of that larger, sturdier structure design. And kind of the last mapping that I pulled from the application is this is within the Breakheart Reservation on the south side of the line. Fewer wetlands in this area, but this is where you have some vernal pools. We have been able to design the access road so that there are no vernal pools, where we'll be either within the vernal pool envelope itself or within the wetlands containing the vernal pools. We've been able to kind of site all the access roads around these wetland locations. We do also have some cultural resources in the area. This mapping shows some of the cultural resources and avoidance measures that will be put in place with the contractor when they build the project in order to protect some of the underlying areas. And then finally, because we do have a permanent impact of 114 square feet of fill, we are proposing wetland replication to offset that fill area. There was not the right kind of space within the same wetland in that Reedy Marsh area off of Audubon Road. So we're proposing within the wetland, this is right next to the substation off of Mount Rose Avenue, to put in about 164 square foot replication area. And this will come with a number of different plantings, be graded kind of up the hill to have both a mix of wetland plantings and then a kind of a conservation mix where the area is graded out to meet that wetland grade.
Is that area contiguous to a wetland now?
It is. So this little inset area is essentially in kind of that V-shaped notch in what we have as wetland W12. There's a vernal pool within that area. It's near the substation, so there's access to be able to get vehicles in there without having to cross any other wetlands, and it'll be directly associated with this wetland here.
Okay, I see.
So I do have the mapping pulled up if anybody wants to see any of the other pages. But at this point, I'm happy to take any questions.
So what's the ones that have to go on the concrete pad?
Yes.
What's the major difference and what's the reasoning for using those as opposed to the other ones that don't need the concrete pad?
So a direct embed is a suspension tower, so it's where there's not as much stress on where the line is hanging. So typically you see those concrete foundations where maybe there's kind of a turn in the line, where you have, as I said, the crossings over the highways, where you just need a little bit more stability in the structure. So for the most part, where you've got, when you're running in straight lines, you can put in a suspension structure, which is just that direct embed. Where you need a little bit more reinforcement in the tower, kind of a stronger structure, those are put on those concrete foundations.
Okay, and how many of those in total did you say there were?
Within wetland resource areas, there are 2 in Wakefield, and that's, go back a few pages to this is right off of Audubon Road, so structure 119 and 120. And then 126 is actually up on this kind of like little wetland hill, or this little upland hill surrounded by wetland. That one will be replaced as well, concrete foundations, but those should be outside of the surrounding wetland.
Now you show fairly substantial squares. I presume the actual wetland area is that small, that's impacted ultimately by the foundation, are those smaller circular areas that you have drawn? So
that's right.
Scale.
Yeah. So these kind of large crosshatch boxes represent the construction matting that's needed to get the crews, the trucks, the vehicles, and equipment out there to perform the work.
Okay.
So this is kind of that footprint, and that's about 100 by 100 foot square.
Mhm.
The reasoning it's 100 by 100 is when you're setting up the structures and pulling in the wire, you may have, several different trucks, like a crane, a boom truck, a support vehicles. So you need that kind of larger work area in order to support all of the crews that are in place to put the structure in.
Is the utility going to be shutting off this line then while it's doing this replacement?
There will be several outages on the line while
Okay.
they're doing specific activities.
Segments? Okay.
So the line will not be, it won't be shut off for the entire construction period. It would just be when they're, moving the wire over to different structures. And there's specific windows where they're able to, to take that outage, to take that window. And, the town of Wakefield will not be without power while those windows, those outage windows is coming from somewhere else. Yeah.
Would assume that. The other question, just for my own interest, is what's the voltage of this line?
This is a 345.
This is
kilovolt
345.
line. It's,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
it's a higher voltage line.
Mhm.
Can we go through what some of these lines are on this drawing that you're showing?
Sure.
For,
Yeah.
like the white ones that got the little 2 lines in between.
Yep. So this
One
white
of the
line is the easement. So this is the edge of the kind of the right-of-way corridor where New England Power has easement rights to maintain the lines that are in here.
Okay.
This kind of
orange.
The orange line is indicating that this is all a estimated and priority habitat. So the entire area within the wetland here is priority habitat for bird and amphibian species.
Okay. And then what's the yellow one?
So we have 2. The orange indicates the natural heritage priority habitat, and the yellow the yellow is the conservation lands, the municipal Article 97 conservation lands.
Okay. Now, you're tying into the substation on Farm Street? Is that what this is tying in?
This is off of Montrose Ave.
Off of Montrose Ave. Okay, but there is another substation on Farm Street. Is that one, are you doing
Yeah,
anything?
that's the one down by Breakheart, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you doing anything with those lines? Do you know where I'm talking? No.
It's not jumping out at me, Shona. Sorry, I was pulling it up as you were indicating the road to take a look, Jim. But it's
Farm Street crosses your line.
Do you have one of these drawings that shows the area on Farm Street up by where the new school's going? Where it's gonna get access to it right away there?
Oh, that's the vocational school, I think, in Breakheart.
Yeah.
Yep. So it might be a page back, Shona. Yep. And I think that's the Quinn Road substation, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know the area now. Sorry, I'm with you as far as where this question is, I guess, in regard to. Yeah, go a little bit further, keep going. There. That's it right there. So there's the town line.
This one here?
Kind of cuts. Yes.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's that sub.
So you're not doing, so are you doing anything there? I saw all these orange, this maroon lines or whatever color you'd call it there.
Yeah. So the 349 line at this point is kind of on this eastern side of the right of way. What looks like up on the map.
Yeah.
And it does not, there's no work proposed related to this Farm Street.
What about to the I guess that would be northeast, further to the next sheet to the page left here.
In the Breakheart Reservation?
You're passing through Breakheart.
Yeah.
And you're likely adjacent to the road, close to the road where is proposed for the Voc Tech, aren't you?
There's not layers you can turn on that show like property lines or
No, the access that we have here, as far as like the VOTEC goes, you go through that Hemlock Road to where the
Right.
existing school is, and
Yeah.
at the rear of that, there's that Breakart Reservation access point sign. So that's
Yeah.
And
one
this
point of
building down
entry.
on the left of this figure is which school?
That's the existing, I guess,
That's the
VOTEC. I
Existing
guess what I
VOTEC.
assumed is, yep, existing. Yep.
All right, so because remember, the new one is proposed to be put up on the ridge,
Mhm.
more or less adjacent to your to your right of way, I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not in their right of way.
Sorry?
Correct. Yeah.
Haley?
It's not in their right of way though.
No, it would not be. It
Side.
would not be.
That's not helping me out. I'm trying to see how close you are to, there's a wetland up there.
Well, go back to the next page below this one, page 10. This is the one you're
So
concerned.
where's the number one, or the, number one wetland that we're always talking about that's running parallel to the access road to the school, to the new school? Because I can't tell where that is on this map like this.
And
The school would be to the bottom of page. Yep, we're showing us,
Yeah.
hovering her cursor. It's down below our right of way.
So Jimmy, I think what you're talking about is what you see on the bottom right of this page, that area. I think that's what
That's
Yeah.
what I'm
referring
that's
to,
what
because
I'm-
if this is the edge of the right of way, that would be where the access road would come up and up to that hilltop in the bottom right.
Okay, but I don't see anywhere where there's lines going across there to tie into, the school runs parallel to their power line. So I'm trying to figure out how close we are gonna be to that right of way that they have to, that the road they're gonna make. Do you know what I'm talking about? I just wanted to see what the relationship was between the road that the school's putting in and their work.
I would say it's going to be parallel to their right of way and somewhat to the north, Jimmy.
Shona, if I take the screen from you, there's
Sure
a aerial imagery in Google Earth that may be helpful. And
Sure.
let me know when you're seeing my screen.
You sent us emails with the drawings all sideways. I couldn't rotate them with my computer either, so it was very annoying.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
I think this is the school footprint.
The new VOTEC.
That's the new folks.
The new
Okay,
folks.
so
Yeah,
they're
that's
they're over on the
Yep.
left-hand side.
So the right of way,
So
Jimmy, is that sort of pinkish looking line across.
Mhm.
That's the existing
Sure.
transmission right of way.
We're coming in. this
VOTEC's
access
road will
road.
come in from the right.
Okay, so the
And I assume that must be Farm Street there, the yellow line going up, sort of
yeah,
cutting
Yeah,
off
this
the
is
right-hand
Farm.
lower right corner. Yeah, that would be Farm.
Yeah, so our
okay.
2 points of access
It's
are right
hard
here.
enough that I can read it, yes.
Yeah, I can zoom in. I'm sorry. I could help you out with that. I apologize. So our access comes in on
Yeah.
the right of way here, continues down the right of way, staying down the right of way, and you can see the existing roads we've used.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go onto the new VOTEC construction, and then the only other point of entry is just one scroll back.
These are recent pictures. Did you guys
There's a
get
gate here
are
with
these
the
Google?
Breakart Reservation sign coming in here. This is a Google Earth image dated March of 2024.
Oh, I just got it. So,
Mhm.
all right.
You could download this one too, Jimmy.
Yeah, I didn't even think of doing that. I was looking
Yeah,
through all.
no, I didn't realize that we could find that current imagery already up there, so.
Yeah, right. Um,
Eleanor has her hand raised.
oh, go ahead, Eleanor. I don't have to do anything, do I?
We can't hear you. You're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
Wonder why.
I've been trying to ask questions and can you hear me or no?
Can hear you
Can't
now.
hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Is it possible, I guess, so you are doing work like along this path in Wakefield? I thought, is this technically Wakefield or Saugus? This what we're looking at on the right of way?
This should be Wakefield.
This area here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
this is Wakefield. Yeah.
Do you guys, for the images you sent, have sort of more zoomed out views so we can see what it like the work looks like in the context of the wetland? Because it's hard with these images, you know, it's so close into the 100 feet, you can't tell sort of what's being impacted or what exactly we're looking at. And then I don't know if it helps to go back to one of the maps to just see sort of where you've indicated where you're going to be widening the, you know, you have 3 different road types. So where are you going to be widening the road 16 feet?
Sure. I can pull up the maps from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, if you could sort of take us through that slowly.
After we do this with Eleanor, I want to pull up your file, your application, and go through it sheet by sheet, just to get you prepared.
Okay.
Okay. So in this first page, so the reason that we have them at this 1 in 100 scale is because there tend to be an awful lot of overlapping layers. So between the access roads, where the construction matting is, where the structures are, if we went to a more zoomed out scale, you kind of lose the detail of where the work is proposed and the scale of the work. We don't have the ability, because these are static PDF maps at this point, to kind of zoom out of these. But the access roads is shown. This first kind of color, this maroon with the white dash, this is where there's existing access, and it'll be very kind of minor repair. So if there's ruts that they need to fill, maybe some minor grading to smooth out ruts, the addition of a little bit of stone to again to smooth out those kinds of ruts. Or if it's a paved area, there's no repairs required.
Okay,
As
so
you
those 100 by 100 squares, those are temporary disruptions there. Once the towers are up, you're not going to have any, it's going to go back to being a wetland, right?
Correct. So those are the areas where we're going to have the large timber mats. They'll be placed in the wetland to protect the vegetation, so we can get kind of the vehicle traffic in to replace the structures. And once the structures are up, once the project is done, those will be pulled out, and the wetland is kind of restored afterward.
How long will those mats remain in place?
Typically throughout the duration of construction, because construction happens in phases where you have maybe some of the foundation work first, you have a little bit of the civil work first, and then depending on the outage windows in different parts of the line, you'll have time to go in to do some of the overhead work, the replacement of the overhead components, or the switching out of some of the wires, or in some cases, just moving the wires from one structure to the other. So we do have kind of that larger construction season where at any point in time, the crews might be in doing different sorts of activities.
And how long is the total duration?
Sure. So the proposed start date for this is kind of late this summer, in about the August timeframe, to start the overall project. So that goes from Tewksbury to Saugus, the whole 17 miles. Andrew, I don't think we have the kind of the schedule of the crews yet to know when they'd be in this area, but we're assuming about it like an August or so start date to get the construction matting in. And then construction completion is proposed for March 2026, and that's when you'd have the mats.
So the mats will remain down for about
About 18 months.
20 months, 22 months, okay.
And that's
Not
that's
very
the
much
maximum
vegetation.
extent. So it's going to depend on, you know, when they're going to be in a particular area that they put the mats in, and when they finish in a particular area when they take the mats out. So that's about the maximum duration that you'd have. So kind of onto the one of the other symbols that you'll see on this mapping is this this blue kind of blue and white outline, and that's called a pull pad. That's a very specialized kind of set of machinery that when they need to change out the overhead wire, the shield wire, they set up equipment that'll pull the line, kind of replace the old, pull out the old knot line and pull in the new one. These are set at specific angles in the line and in specific locations. In this case, where you have structure 124, it's kind of at an angle in the line. And so these pull pads kind of have to be set in particular locations. We don't have a lot of wiggle room as to where they're in wetlands.
You're not changing the conductors, you're only changing the OPGW, right?
Not changing the conductor. I think there's one section on the entire 17 plus miles where they do need to change a small section of the conductor, but for the most part, that conductor will be just transferred over to the new structures.
That's not happening here in Wakefield, so.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I'm trying to find another example of
Sorry, just to back you up. So the temporary matting would go where exactly? Like in this diagram, is it across all the orange-ish red lines, or what are we talking about?
It's this this kind of cross hatch, and in the tan is the work area. So that's going to be kind of like 100 by 100 work area around the structure. That's where construction matting goes to set up the equipment when they're changing out the structures. And then there's also these kind of 16-foot wide paths, and that's where construction matting goes to go between the structure or the work areas.
Well, I guess where's the road? How are these vehicles getting to those structures? It's sort of hard to tell. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
You come off of Teal Road down into this parking lot, and then you have this kind of maroon with white dash line kind of entrance into the work area. And from there, it's all construction matting.
So is it this entire green? I guess this is what I'm confused. How much of this diagram will be construction matting?
The work area around structure 126, and then this roadway all the way down to the next structure off of 95.
So just the square? Okay.
The square and the pathway between it and the next square.
Across the wetland or through the road, right?
Across the wetland.
The path is across the wetland.
Yeah.
On matting.
Right.
So literally
But if that matting's
between
down for 2 years, there's not going to be much vegetation left below it for a while.
No. So it goes straight across then?
It goes straight
Sorry.
across. Yep. So matting, when they put the matting in place, depending on the underlying vegetation, in some cases you have scrub where they, you know, you've got some of the bushier vegetation, they'll put it down right on top of that shrub. And within a year and a half or so lifting it up, the vegetation rebounds typically within about a year or so. Where it's put down on herbaceous vegetation, again, within about a year or so, just based on the existing seed or root stock, that vegetation will reestablish. I mean, like the existing vegetation may, may wilt, but you do see that rebounding. Our kind of restoration methods for construction matting, it's called in situ restoration, and that generally consists of if there is any sort of kind of rutting or compression of soils from some of the mats, it'd be typically very minor. Crews would kind of hand rake those out. The wetland monitor on the project will go back about once a quarter or so, just to monitor the recovery of the wetlands. This is part of our conditions for Army Corps of Engineers, our section 404 and 401 permit, and kind of keep an eye on the natural revegetation of the wetland. And we do see with these projects within about a year or so that vegetation comes back within a growing season, I should say.
Are those mitigation measures spelled out in the NOI as well? Is it like an O&M plan? Is there a monitoring plan? How is that documented?
The in situ restoration is called out in the notice of intent. I will note again that like this particular component of the project, the construction matting, the replacement of structures, the in-kind replacement from direct embed wood to direct embed steel are part of the exempt portions of the project. But we do spell out kind of how that in situ restoration works within the notice of intent. The conditions for those are within our section 404 and 401.
Has the 401 and 404 permits been obtained yet?
Yes. Yep. Those were issued, I believe, in March.
Excuse me, can I get a copy of those water quality certifications for the files?
Well, I do want to get right into the application, the notice of intent application, and go through that with you. You can get that on your computer, right?
Yep. So this is the compiled application.
Yeah. Start at the beginning, start scrolling down.
Is there a particular section that you?
Well, there's a couple of sections, but I think we have to really just go right past them. But I just want to. I mean, it's not that many pages.
Sure.
Okay, so I have a question. You say that you've got all your right of ways. I guess whatever you do to get access to them. Are there right of ways that are on other people's property? Is that why you had to do that to complete this project?
So
it says NEP has easement rights for
yes.
that particular one, but somewhere else in here, I was seeing that it said that it implied that for those right of ways that were outside your jurisdiction, you have written allowance to go over those areas. Is that right? Or am I reading it wrong?
That would be potentially a situation like off of Teal Road. We do have the right of way where we could come directly off of the road into the right of way, but we instead of going kind of through a longer portion of this wetland or through several of these wetlands, we come off the right of way where the easement is through a parking lot and into the right of way off the edge of the parking lot. So in some of those cases, I'm not sure if that's the case for this landowner. This is just an example, but in those cases, we would obtain prior permission from the landowners to use the parking lot to get into the right of way.
Okay. So you can go back to the application. So we'll keep going down a little bit.
Sure.
Let's stop.
Yeah. Is this a legible scale? Can you see the application? I can zoom in if I need to.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, so you're looking for limited projects status. Now, you know that even though these are, you have to prove to us that you will not cause alterations in these resource areas. You're going to go through the resource areas and cover the 8 interests of those resource areas, correct? We'll talk about that too. Let me go right down to the Go further down, I guess.
Sure.
Can I ask Elaine a quick
Then-
question while we're scrolling?
Right here, it's where I want to be. Go ahead. You have a chart on here. I copied this and it lists out the endangered animals. It's your Mesa review, which is ongoing.
Yes.
What's that about?
So that's these, I'm going to go back to the mapping just a moment. In this very large wetland off of Audubon Road,
Yeah,
this whole area is indicated as a estimated priority habitat.
right.
Because this is a 17-mile long project and there are several different species throughout the project, and we had some substantial permitting prior to coming to the conservation commissions, we've been collaborating with Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program since kind of the early planning of the project. We did an official MESA checklist in October of 2022 and received kind of our determination letter for multiple different species that are on the entire line that both determined there are several species where the measures that we have in place already for protection of these species are enough to not result in a take. And they gave us a number of special conditions with some of the other species in order to avoid a take. And if we can follow those special conditions, then we meet our MESA obligations and we don't have a take.
Okay,
So that's the MESA the review that's ongoing, or it's completed at this point.
Does your
Okay, so
schedule
on-
reflect those conditions? Does your proposed schedule reflect all of the
It does. Yeah.
NHESP?
Yes, it does.
So I'm looking at your fishes and I'm looking at your, from MIPA, this paperwork. And down at the bottom, you've got all the scientific names and common names of the endangered species blacked out. Why is that?
They're blacked out because typically Natural Heritage likes us to not share some of they're data sensitive species. So they like us to not share the names of them to protect the species from,
Collectors, I mean, people come
Collectors,
to them
yeah.
right away.
Yeah,
They will gravitate towards the priority habitats and collect the species. So we are asked to redact it so that it's not out there in public knowledge.
Thank you, Andrew. Couldn't come up with that word.
Okay, because I mean, they do say it's not, it's will not result in a take.
I thought that was only if the work was done between September and March, or no?
They follow the schedule that they put out here for bird species, for amphibians and invertebrate. They're giving them time frames to work in.
There's several overlapping.
Correct.
In this particular area, at the beginning of the project, we're at the north side of the project by Linfield. We do have time of year restrictions for when we can place the matting around kind of the breeding seasons, the fledgling seasons of the birds, the rare birds in this area. So we work with Natural Heritage to figure out the exact schedule of when we place that matting.
So in the Mass Wildlife letter, it talks about a yearly operation plan and management plan. Is that in place already? You probably have that long-standing. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's New England Power, because they operate multiple lines across the state, daily operations and maintenance projects. They have kind of a general permit, so to speak, with Natural Heritage that allows operations and maintenance type activities. So very standard, very, from, crews checking on the status of poles to kind of more simple distribution line replacements. There's some of these more standard, typical maintenance activities. And they maintain this operations and maintenance plan with Natural Heritage that kind of gives guidelines on if there are particular species where you're doing your work, here's the guidelines on how to do the work to avoid impacting these species. And so some of the conditions that we're following in order to avoid a take, particularly for the butterfly moth species, we're following the recommendations and guidelines that are in that yearly permit from the operations and maintenance plan from Natural Heritage.
So are those conditions in the 401 and 404? I'm just trying to where those at, these are recommendations typically from Fish and Wildlife, and they need to be conditioned. So Elaine, I don't know if we add these conditions to our order or if they're documented in the 401, 404.
So from what I read, what you do is you include the condition from the Department Division of Wildlife at the end of your own. So let's say you have 63 conditions. Number 64 says applicant shall abide by the conditions written by or issued by the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife attached at condition 65. And then put the whole thing. And while we're talking about this, I wonder if you could send me a reference to a March 27, 24 NHST letter. Can I get a copy of that?
So I'd sent you earlier the first letter, and then we had a revised letter specific to the birds. I believe I sent you that redacted version this morning, but I can check to make sure that got through to you.
That's right. I wasn't in the Wakefield office this morning. Sure. So it's sitting in the inbox at Wakefield.
It's an email.
Okay. All right. I've got it then.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So I guess basically, if you follow this procedure that you've outlined, they feel that it would not be considered a case. Looks like for me.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Can you go down on that application, some of the charts that are there?
Sure. The charts are in the narrative specifically?
Well, I was looking at the one for resource area. Okay. I think this must be down a little further.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. You talk about you talk about lost areas, lost BVD replication, and then there's the biggest one was the access roads, the loss due to the access roads. There's a chart in here somewhere that shows that. Isn't there? I thought I saw one.
Sure, specific to the access roads. I think that's further down. This one?
Yeah. Okay. So good. So I was amazed that for the habitat, you're saying, explain to me what this chart is saying.
So this chart, this goes through the kind of the different kinds of general grading. So grading on the whole is a difficult number to predict. So it's a very conservative estimate because there's existing, as you could kind of see from the aerial, there's existing access roads throughout the corridor. And in some cases, there are several access roads in the same corridor. We conservatively estimate that when the crews go out in planning to look at the access roads and see kind of what needs to be repaired, what needs to be widened, what is drivable as it is, or might need kind of minor refreshing prior to construction. We have kind of a linear footage. So when we estimate out the total amount of grading, that is assuming kind of that worst case that we'll need to go through the entire length of these right-of-way or these access roads through the right-of-way and grade the whole thing. But that's actually in reality not what's happening. You'll have sections of the access road that are in good condition, sections that aren't, where you will have the addition of stone, or they'll grade it out so that it's where maybe there's 12 feet right now, you'll go to about 16 feet. We have attempted to try and classify kind of where you need minor repairs, where we'll need something a little bit more significant. There aren't really significant construction of access roads in Wakefield. Significant is where we might actually need engineering design to come in to work out kind of cuts and fills as you're coming down hills. We don't have that in Wakefield. We have a network of established roads that in some cases will have, and this is where you've got kind of that type S, will just have kind of a top grade of stone put over it. And in some cases you have the type 1, which is a little bit more of the, or sorry, I got that backwards. The type S is where you might widen it a bit. The type 1 is where you have a new coating of gravel. So this 62,554 square feet of grading is the entire access road network throughout Wakefield.
Okay, well, that was what I was getting at. So this is actually incorporating the existing access roads and the proposed modifications.
Yeah, there are no new proposed
Okay.
roads. We're not building any new roads. So all of this work is taking place where there already is an access road.
Okay, and then as far as getting, I mean, you just don't have one long road going down the right away, right? You're gonna have access points here and there because there's already gates up and stuff like in Breakout. Is that what you'll be using to get to your points? The existing accesses out of Breakout, and there's some on Farm Street as well. There's gates up already. So you're not going to make a new access road. You're going to widen existing ones or whatever it takes to get your 16 feet.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah.
All right.
But Jimmy, along that point, is it type 1 square, like the last column there, square foot, you're going to be widening, is that 61,000? Like,
61,000, that's the total.
okay, but it'll go from 12 feet to 16 feet? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, but the existing ones, I think, for us anyways, is you've walked Breakout, right?
Yeah.
Well, those are the roads. Those are your access roads. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the access roads that are there for them to use. But then there's like in Breakout, you can go. There's certain points, there's gates. You've seen the gates up there as you walk some of the trails, haven't you? Yes. Well, those I believe are going to be their access roads that they're going to widen to 16 feet. And they're the only. Everywhere else, the stuff is already, they have to prune anyways in the major right of way just to keep, the stuff from growing into the wires. So.
Okay, but like in that example, is it, because right now it's kind of, sort of rocky, gravelly. Is it suddenly going to be asphalt?
No. I don't.
No. Okay, good.
I think
yes.
It would continue to be rocky and gravelly. It's just that the travel surface, where right now it might be eroded and it's kind of uneven, it would just be a little bit more of a uniform rocky gravel surface.
And no, I don't want to say it's not blasting, but it's quite rugged up there. Would you be doing, I don't know what the equipment is to crush rock, stuff like that to flatten it?
I don't think they're talking about that.
Okay.
Eleanor.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that scoped in the project, any rock outcroppings. There's no blasting, no rock hammering, nothing of that sort.
Okay, what I do wonder about is, are you going to be grading that might change the flow of water up and down these hills? Because we have the school over there that just went through a study for a stormwater study, and I know you have to do stormwater management, but it wouldn't be good to grade these things so that they were putting water in the wrong locations. How do you handle that?
So the grading that is indicated they're not cutting a slope. They're not kind of changing the pitch or the steepness of the existing roads. The grading is more where there are existing roads, if you get kind of that, I don't know if you ever like a washboard effect, that kind of smooth that out. Most of it is addition of stone rather than cutting into a slope.
Right. Well, I can tell you, there's one area that I would like to go out there with you and look at before this thing is finalized, because there's water that comes down your right of way and it goes into a wetland number, is it wetland 3? Is the one down there, the big one? That we don't want to not distribute the water where it's supposed to go, because it would be a deficit for that pond it's feeding. So we're gonna do a site walk on some of this up. And I don't know if you know that, but we all, I think, want to see it. See some of the stuff that you're talking about, and you can explain, as we go along. But that was my other concern, was the grading, and that we don't change the grading so that the water is going into areas it wasn't supposed to go into. And
Your application talks about minimal grading for type S roads.
but I would like to know.
It would be helpful to understand what you mean by minimal.
Sure, that's right.
Minimal is smoothing of ruts. It's not changing topography. So
Yeah.
it's not cutting into a slope or substantially changing the
Yeah.
grade of a road. Minimal is typically trying to smooth out a surface of a road that's already existing by moving the material that's already there, so that it creates kind of a uniform, consistent surface, rather than importing any material and creating kind of a fill effect, or cutting into a slope and changing the slope of the road. So we're not doing any of that kind of cutting and filling. It's just moving the existing material to smooth, and then adding stone as needed to create kind of a more stable base.
With the type S roads, your document talks about installation or restoration of stormwater management features. What are those features typically? Are they drains parallel to the road, or are they basically culverts to allow stream or flow to cross? What are we talking about here?
Those are, if you do have kind of a long continuous slope to prevent stormwater flows from just running down the slope, in some cases you'll kind of have a water bar. And if that water bar has been eroded, or through just traffic over years, if that water bar is gone, it's replacing that water bar. It's very small features that kind of divert or slow down water. It's not drainage basins or culverts or kind of these larger features that you might see with kind of a typical development project.
Water bar being the type of feature that goes usually at a slight diagonal across the road,
Yes.
diverts the sheet flow into a culvert.
Or the sheet flow into kind of surrounding vegetation, so it slows down
Yep.
the water from flowing down the road. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The area that I'm talking about, we're talking about just virtually 2 or 3 inches would make a big difference. So when we go through this thing, that's something we want to look at with you and see what you can do to keep that flowing in the right direction. Okay, what else?
Can I ask another question while we're on this slide? The red,
Yeah,
on your diagram where it says type 1 access road, and it's that red hatched thing that's parallel to the white lines, is that?
This?
Yes.
That one is I believe that's the boundary of is that the DCR State Park?
Yeah, that's the.
I think
So yeah, that's not the road. Yeah.
Okay. It's not.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no,
I thought it was
access road is that
indicating that you
yellow
were going
line,
to
I
widen the
think.
road. I was thinking you were going to widen the road when I looked at it. Okay. Thank you.
Your access road is your yellow line, isn't it?
Yes. In this
Correct, yeah.
case, it's these yellow lines. Yeah.
Okay.
And I will note that this kind of teal rectangle, and I
Yeah.
believe this may be by the wetland
I think that's the wetland of concern, yes.
Yes, so this triangle is an archaeological, cultural kind of sensitive area. There's no grading at all in this area. So we, you know, if they're working in this area, they won't be smoothing down the roads. They would have to either put down kind of geotextile fabric and stone across it and remove it afterward, or construction matting. There's no grading at all allowed here. And this is kind of an area it's fairly close to, I believe, that wetland of concern.
Certainly where the road gets closest.
Yes.
Do you have your 100-foot buffer zone on here?
The 100-foot buffer zone is this this green. We didn't delineate this wetland because it's off the right of way. We don't have access to it. We don't have the rights to delineate it. But we did apply the buffer zone based off the state, the DEP wetlands layer.
Okay, is it feeding water to another wetland that is in your area? Where is it getting its supply of water? From just the general topography?
I'm not sure. I'd have to take a look at
that one.
Kind of a larger.
I would say either groundwater or surrounding square feet flow, but the resources that BSC has reflected on the right of way, there's not a connection that we have mapped there.
No.
You can see where she's
There's
hovering.
there's no connection between the two, is what you say. You don't
No.
screen. Okay.
I believe
Correct,
this
yeah.
one, it flows kind of eastward.
Mhm.
Yes, eastward.
I want to shift for a second and go down the other end towards where Teal Road is.
Sure.
You got one of these plans for that area?
Yes, Teal Road here.
So where does your right of way come as far as the road goes? And who owns?
Right by the bulb at the end of the road.
Yeah, but where does the storage building in relation to this?
There's a storage building. Yeah, so at that roundabout, you can. Yep, it's at the far end. Yep.
So you don't have a drawing for that area, right?
Sean, if you go another page, I think there is where he's referencing. I think at that last building, I think that's the last building. Is that not the storage facility? U-Haul or some type?
Well, one there's an area.
It's off of Audubon, Jimmy.
Yeah, okay. The reason why I'm asking is because I know there's wires up there that are on, look like they could use some help. But we have Reedy Meadow Trail there. And I didn't know if your supports are, if we can check and make sure we're not conflicting with you.
Does the Reedy Meadow Trail start at Teal Road, Jimmy?
I'm trying to think of where it's at the end of it's where that storage facility is. That's the end of the road.
It's
Yeah,
your side of
end
town,
of
not
Audubon.
mine, unfortunately.
They've got it fenced off, and right by where it's fenced off is our access to Reedy Meadow for the trail. So, and so I was trying to, it'd be nice to know whose property that is. It is a paved road. And it goes into, I don't know if the dirt side is your property and the pavement is someone else's property.
So in this case, this is all easement. This is not New England Power Company's property. This is just where they have the kind of the access and the rights to own and operate the utility lines.
Okay, so another power company owns the property, or?
I could pull up the abutters map for who owns this. This number here, 36W2118B, would be the owner of this kind of larger property. Or 362210C.
I'd like to look at that a little bit more. If you're going to be working in that area, my thought was that we could see if there's an area that could be flattened out to park some cars so someone could walk the trail. Something to think about.
So is that you're saying during construction, just to not block the access to the trail?
Yeah, I mean, we need better access to the, we don't have any place to park over there if someone wants to walk the trail. And if it was dirt already, if we could just make it smooth enough for a car to drive on, then we could advertise Reedy Meadow Trail parking and people have a way to get in.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I know there is a line around here. I'm not entirely sure where the trail starts, but there was pretty substantial wetland in this area as well.
I know, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. We're gonna do a site walk, okay? And I know some of them we probably can't get access to. But are you gonna do the site walk with us?
Yep, I'm happy to point out kind of where the work will be, the kinds of work. Yep.
And
Jimmy, I assume we'll do selective locations rather than walking the whole thing.
well, yeah, I mean, if there's no sense in looking at inside the swamp because I'm not gonna run out there and try to see what's around it. So
You're not going to try to truck through the swamp?
No, not my red truck.
No,
Yeah.
without mats.
No, don't want to do that. But yeah, we'll be selecting. I think it would be a good idea to, and then we can talk about standards.
So this is these two views are from that Reedy Meadow Trail, I believe.
Yeah.
Kind of looking, okay. So that is one area we could certainly go to take a look at these pictures.
Okay. That's good. Okay, I don't know how does everyone feel about how much more do you want to do on this? Do you want to try to, just mull over what we've learned so far? And
can I ask a quick question about the replication?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering how that area was evaluated. Like, was that just kind of picked off a plan, or has there been any kind of test pits or kind of close evaluation? And the reason I ask is, lots of times replication actually doesn't work. Lots of times people don't think through the hydrology and kind of put stuff out there, and it doesn't work very well because folks really haven't studied it. They more like just drew a circle on a plan. I'm not saying you did that, but I just want to see, what kind of effort you put into coming up with that.
Sure. So we did actually do, I think, a number, like 2 different site walks within Wakefield. So we had a wetland scientist go out and take a look at, I think it was 3 locations we'd identified using kind of desktop evaluation. The first area was, so criteria for looking at it was trying to stay within the same wetland, which was just not available in that, that large wetland area off of Reedy Marsh. So the second was kind of staying definitely within the town and trying to stay within the right of way so that, New England Power kind of had rights to be able to use the land, to be able to easily perform the kind of the replication, the mitigation without having to go through permissions to get off-site replication.
They have a credit card.
What's that?
Oh, I think you might just not be on mute.
Okay, so there was a couple of locations we looked at, including some culverted areas along Wakefield, but we ended up with this particular option right next to the Wakefield substation, based on what we thought was kind of the ease of being able to work into this area. The topography was such that it gently slopes into the wetland. There, I believe in this area there is an existing foundation or an existing pole from a previous pole replacement. So being able to pull out the pole and restore the area and then pull it up the slope a little bit was a greater criteria for success. The wetland scientists did do a number of test plots in the area to see what the soils were, and also categorize kind of the vegetation within the wetland and within the surrounding upland. And so that vegetation is kind of what informed the planting choices that we kind of outlined within the that replication area.
Thank you very much for going over that.
Silky dogwood, high bush blueberry, and speckled alder, specifically for this area. I think one of the other criteria that we're looking at is the amount of invasive species in a surrounding wetland. Like, you don't necessarily want to go into a Phragmites dominated wetland and then create a replication area that's only then going to be dominated by Phragmites, because it's kind of a hard species to stop that creep. So we did rule out a number of areas where the mix of invasive species was too great to be able to have a successful mitigation area. But I can also, if we're going to go on a site walk, I'm happy to bring those notes as well to go through kind of what that criteria was in a little bit more detail.
No, it's great. Thank you for thinking it through and explaining it. Appreciate it.
Okay. Let's talk about a site walk then. Someone pick a date, and we'll see which date we get that everyone can attend. Anyone got any ideas?
I'm
Hello?
away this weekend, Jimmy.
You're away this weekend?
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone else have a suggestion on a day that would work for them? I can work on any day. I can do it. So don't worry about me. I'll be there. Eleanor?
You don't get back to town until 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Working days. Eleanor?
You're muted, Eleanor.
Is she on?
Mondays and Fridays, I'm here, so I could go somewhere earlier.
Okay.
Like 5. I'm around this weekend, but going out of town, and we'll be back. I'll be around the following Sunday.
Okay. And what about you?
Is it easier for an afternoon for folks, or a Monday or Friday afternoon, or is that pushing it? We have the time. I mean, we have the lights now. But
Yeah, I mean, I could do this Friday at 5. If Eleanor could make it work at 5 on Friday, I could do that.
I don't think I could do Friday.
Okay.
I could do early weekends as well. Or next Monday, or the Monday coming up.
Monday the
That's kind of short notice. Start
10th?
Maybe not.
I'm okay.
All right, who we missing? Haley? Where'd she go?
She's dark and muted.
Let's see all right, so what are you saying for a date?
Ken was suggesting Monday the 10th, right?
Monday the 10th.
5 o'clock.
Elaine, can you?
But I think we just lost Eleanor too. I do not see her on my screen. Am I missing something? No.
Participants. 13 people.
Does BSC group have availability that day or that late in the afternoon?
I do have another site walk on Monday morning, so at 5 o'clock would be a little bit easier to swing than earlier in the morning.
Jimmy, I could do Monday at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Eleanor said Mondays were better for her. We need her to weigh in. And Haley needs to weigh in as well. I don't know how to ping them.
I don't know how to do it either. I'm thinking of trying something, but I don't know what it's gonna do. That's the problem. I don't know how to do this.
We could tentatively set it for that. Here comes
Yeah.
Eleanor back. Eleanor, how would next Monday, the 10th at 5 be for a site walk?
I could probably make like 5:15.
It's okay by me.
Yep.
If we did that, we could do, we'd have, well, it's now 8:15 and we could still be walking outdoors if we, so.
Yeah.
I just got a text from Haley who says she cannot unmute.
Okay,
Yeah.
is she able to hear what we're discussing?
She said she can do Monday at 5.
She
Okay.
can,
Okay, so
All
why don't we set it up for Monday at 5 then?
or, yeah, or Eleanor, if it's better for you, 5:15. Then let's call it 5:15.
Can BSC group kind of plan a couple strategic locations to meet and travel and park and access?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Haley said,
where should we, you should probably let us know where we should start, where we should all meet to gather. Do we meet up at somewhere in the Reedy Meadow area to start there and then move down the path?
Yeah, Reedy Meadow is kind of the bulk of where those larger
Impact,
foundations will go.
Right, but obviously Jimmy is concerned, and I think we all are concerned about the area down on the abutting Breakheart, where you pass through that. That's an area that's been subject to a lot of controversy over the past year and change. So I think we also need to take a look at that end of it, which is the other end of town, essentially, for you. But
Make a move.
so, but if you can give us a suggestion on a location to meet at Reedy Meadow, and we'll start there.
Okay.
Jim, is there anything they should have kind of prepared for the next meeting, or any kind of unknown or anything they need to kind of dive into on their end to be prepared? We'll be looking at everything on our end, but if they need to be prepared otherwise for.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is I want to just make sure that whatever they're doing is not going to cause an alteration, of course, to our resource areas. It's primarily, what I'm looking for is stuff like that. I don't have any suggestions. And
If you guys had more maps that sort of shown,
okay, that's a good idea.
It's just, they're so zoomed in, it's hard to see how close the work is happening, and to kind of get a sense of scale, and then, sort of mark off those areas where there's going to be sort of more involved alteration.
That's a great idea. So could we get that on, actually, I don't know what size paper you need to put that on, but the larger you make it, the better. Probably.
I mean, even if it's just one piece to start, that's like 1, 2, 3, that we can
all look at it though while we have sidewalk, we can all look at it and use that as a reference for our locations, and
then it's easier to see how the wetlands are related, or
And maybe a copy of the plans in 11x17 if you have them, just so they can we can see those symbols a little closer just by hand if folks need it. You can't see it online. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay.
so do we have a start location yet? I'm still not sure where we're meeting.
what we
They'll
meet
provide
up at the end of Teal. How about at the end of Teal Road? Isn't that where that cul-de-sac is, like that dead end? The Ys go right overhead, cross right over here. What if we start right there? I mean, is that all right with everyone?
That'd work.
Okay. Lane, you know where I'm talking?
I can find the end of Teal Road. No problem. I have one last question though before finish this. And it has to do with recording at the Registry of Deeds. So it says here, the property is recorded at the Registry of Deeds at Middlesex North. There's a right of way, and then it just says easement rights. So as I type up the order of conditions, I need to put in some kind of a book and a page. So I don't understand how this works. How do you record the order of conditions on an easement?
There are a number of where New England Power does own property in the town. We can record against some of those if they're along the right of way. There are other easements that we can record against as well. So typically kind of what I've done in the past is upon receiving that order of conditions is putting that through New England Power Department's kind of property legal department, and they'll provide the specific easements and recording numbers to record that against before bringing that over to the Registry of Deeds.
Okay, so when they do that, can I get a copy of all of that so we have it in?
Yep. And then,
Okay.
and of course, once we record the, any order, then we would send all that information as well. So you'll have that recording with the recording information.
Oh, all right. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Did your project talk about anything in work in the floodplain at all?
There is work in floodplain. There's a number of different floodplain areas associated with the Saugus River and some kind of the larger wetlands. Most of the work that we have going on is straight kind of in-kind replacement. Where we do have work to enlarge kind of those foundations, those are within the reedy, within the wetland itself, so you don't have that kind of overlap with the floodplain. Right. There is access road work within the floodplain, but how we've talked about those in the application is that there's not going to be kind of any addition of fill or any kind of increase in any loss of flood storage area or kind of increase in fill in those access roads that would take away.
That's the standard, so you can't have any loss. But do you know how much? How do you verify what you're doing though? Do you know how much area you're going to have in the floodplain, or you just? I don't know.
Yep, the floodplain. So we have with the application, we submitted both the kind of the firmets that show the outline of where the floodplain is, and then on the environmental resource mapping submitted with the application, we do have the floodplain as an overlay. It's kind of a transparent line, so you'll be able to see kind of any of the work that's in floodplain. And when we did our calculations, we then were able to kind of figure out where any proposed work is overlaid with the floodplain, and that's how it's reported in the notice of intent. There's no loss. We're not proposing any loss of floodplain storage.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean, you got to be able to prove that. Okay, well, okay. All right, so we're gonna have a walk on Monday at 5 or 5:15. Which was it? Whatever.
5:15.
5:15. Okay. Is there anything else? Bronwyn, are you there? How do I get her on here? She's been at the last meeting too, and I don't think we were able to get her.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Bronwyn, did you want to, or anyone else that's interested, any resident, anyone that wants to say something? Is there anything you want to add?
I don't really have any questions right now. I will be interested in hearing what comes of the site walks, though. There were a lot of very good points and questions made, so thank you for that.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue this until our next meeting, which is what date?
June 18th.
June 18th. And We will see you on the sidewalk.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Wow, we sure that there was no yelling and screaming or anything. We did really well.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Okay.
Okay, that's Haley. She says her Zoom has totally crashed and she's trying to get back on.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, we're gonna continue then. We're gonna go through the agenda now, I think. And of course,
Actually, one more thing. Can Judy send out a meeting invite for that?
I already
Oh,
sent it.
yeah, I
Thank
was thinking of that.
you.
I was gonna have Elaine do it, but that's,
I already sent it.
Thank you. Thank you.
okay, I hope we didn't change our mind. We already sent it. Okay, 94 Butler Ave. That has been continued again until July 2nd. We should probably at some point talk to Bill and see if we should just take it off for a while.
No, he asked to have it put to July 2nd. He's planning on coming on July 2nd.
Oh, okay,
That was his request.
okay,
So the next one is 17 Butler.
okay.
17 Butler Avenue. I spoke to the property owner and I put it on, I requested to have it on the agenda, but he still owes us an as-built plan, which has not come in yet. So we're still waiting for the as-built plan. I'd just like to roll this over until the next meeting with the anticipation that it will come in by that time.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do without the as-built plan. It's
Right.
part of,
I'm all for that. Is anyone else for it or against it?
Makes sense.
Okay, I think so too.
Excuse me, can I just say something, please?
Yes,
So I spoke to John for Hayes Engineering, and he says that he didn't see any conditions, and he wanted to understand what exactly is it that you guys need from
oh, for,
in terms of the as-built, because he didn't see the conditions. He read all the conditions, and he didn't see anything that pertained to anything that he would have to do.
okay. So Elaine, does our order say that it's required to have a as-built?
I
In the condition.
Yeah, it's in all the conditions. I'll tell you what, I don't have the file with me right now.
Okay,
I will pull out the file when I'm in the office on Friday and contact you again about the as-built plan. I can't do it now because I'm sitting at the house and I don't have the file in front of me.
Yep.
I understand. That's what, could it be possible for you to also type it, explain exactly what you want from us? Because like I mentioned before, I spoke to John for Hayes Engineering. He says he didn't understand exactly what we needed, and it would have been too expensive for us to do anything on his end if we didn't need it. So I just wanted to have a more clear understanding.
Absolutely.
Elaine, it's a standard condition, right?
It
Oh, no.
should be in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'll look at I can't say anything now, but I will go back through the order. I'll see what it is. I'll talk to John Ogren and see what
Yeah.
John's problem is with it. And between John and I and the order, we should be able to sort it out and I can get back to you on Friday, both of you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
okay, that's good. Right, the other one is Angel Lane, 2 Angel Lane, request for certificate of compliance. So I looked at that and Elaine looked at that, and I think it looks excellent. What he's got done there. I see nothing wrong with it. I mean, you could almost, was actually well done. I mean, everything looks perfect for location and quantities. So I don't know, is there anything you want to add, Elaine?
No, it looked better than I had anticipated it would.
The ducks
There's
are back.
there's still room for wildlife habitat there. The plan was good, the execution was good. I would definitely recommend a certificate of compliance.
So you went out and visited the site, Elaine?
Yeah, Jimmy and I went out together.
Okay.
Maybe someone can make a motion to
I'll move that we issue the certificate based on your recommendations.
okay.
Second.
All in favor? Gotta go through the list here. Haley's back. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Haley,
Hey,
are you okay with this?
yes.
Okay, Paul,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Eleanor?
I think I abstain.
Okay, yeah, it's probably good because you don't know anything about it, right? And me, I'm okay with it. So we'll get that done.
Okay.
We have a tree removal request at 198 Oak Street. Is there anything you can tell us about that, Elaine?
Well, I sent you the photographs and I sent you the letter from Keith's tree.
Okay,
The spruce at the bottom of the left of the driveway has a strong lean towards the house. It's starting to uproot. And the maple is 90% dead and falling apart. And I sent you photographs in your information package.
okay. Yeah, I saw this.
There's photos on the screen. Can you see?
Right. That's the dead maple or dead or dying maple.
Okay, well, is that the right tree then? Because he says an oak tree. Oh, it's Oak Street. No, yes, okay, so it's
A maple and a spruce.
spruce, okay.
The spruce is starting to fail. And it says it's leaning. Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? How do we fit?
Yes.
That tree's not going to last.
Yeah, how do we fit this in now with that tree?
Well, they're both sick and dying, right?
It's sick and dying, yeah, so they really
So they qualify.
qualify. Yep. Okay. Let's have a motion for someone. Anyone?
Motion to approve those two trees coming down.
That's it. I'll second that. All in favor? Haley,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ken?
Just to clarify, no replacement required.
No, because they're dying.
So I say yes.
And Eleanor,
Yes.
okay. Now, so that's it on the agenda, but I think,
I just wanted to remark on something, Elaine. That was very helpful the way you sent out the packets one after another. That actually made it quite easy to track what we had on the agenda tonight.
Okay, well, I'll put that up then. Okay.
Thank you.
That might help you stay organized.
It did. It absolutely did.
Yes. Thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you, Elaine.
When we find a new agent, you're going to have to teach that person to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eleanor, you have any topics that you want to talk about right now, or anything that you want to bring up?
Oh, I think, I don't know. I think we just got an email about the Lake Quantapowhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just forwarded that about an hour before the meeting or something like that.
Okay. I don't know if we want to talk about that. I am curious, Elaine, how I guess just for comparison, how other towns sort of kind of oversee the testing of sort of public resource areas, those lakes, things like that.
How they oversee the what?
Like lake quality testing.
Oh,
Like
lake
in
quality-
Winchester, is it Conservation Commission? Is it the Health Department? Is it a combination?
Oh, good
Well-
question. Because
Well,
in
wait a
Winchester,
minute now.
What?
Mr. Murphy, is Mr. Murphy still in Wakefield? Mr. Murphy was doing stuff with the high school for years. They must have 35 years of, lake testing.
Right, they
I
still,
don't know. Maybe they're still doing it. I don't know.
but the
um,
town doesn't do it.
What?
The town doesn't do it because it's not a swimmable water body.
Well, okay. But I think we have a lot of that information. We should check with Mr. Murphy and if he's still around. I mean, he was getting kind of old.
I guess people come and fish out of there, and some people actually eat the fish.
Wow.
They're not necessarily residents of Wakefield. They're coming from other towns, and they're
Yeah.
coming on Sunday
Well,
mornings
they
with their
should,
families.
they should post it, that it's not a healthy meal. I mean. it's
Well,
an
right,
unfair-
that's
an
part of
unfair-
the email about different postings. So
But
it
that
seemed
would-
like it was
That
an
would be the
action.
Board of Health, though.
Okay.
So they're the ones who would post those notices?
They've posted before when they've had the algae blooms to warn
Yep.
people not to let the dogs in.
Yeah, because they were toxic. Well,
Okay.
I'll see if I can, I don't know Mr. Murphy's phone. He was my chemistry teacher in high school.
I think.
I hesitate I'm only hesitating because I hope he's still around, as I can use as a resource. But one thing I wanted to bring up too, since we're talking about the lake, is I don't know if you've ever heard of nano bubbles. Any of you heard of that?
I
Well,
have,
I think it's a good thing to look at as far as how to treat the lake. It doesn't use chemicals, it just uses oxygen from the
Have you
air.
talked to Bill Renault about it?
What's that?
Have you talked to Bill
I
Renault?
have talked to Bill Renault about it, and he said he was gonna contact his group and spread the word, or at least look into it.
What's,
I don't see any
what's-
reason why we can't look into it ourselves. Because
what's his group, Jimmy? Because there was supposed to be a Clean Lake Committee run by Bill, which absolved after 3 meetings.
yeah. Well, so
Well,
what's
it
the
didn't
question?
absolve, just stopped meeting.
Yeah. I mean, they need to find something that will clean this lake, and this sounds like I've contacted the company, and the guy called me tonight. I wasn't able to take his call, but I'll call him back tomorrow, see if I can get him to, if he's local or whatever, come out here and explain what they do and how their success rate is. They've done a lot of this stuff, and they found it's been doing a great job in cleaning up lakes and sewage plants and all that kind of stuff.
What's the
So-
cost, do you know?
What's that?
What's the cost?
I don't know what the cost is. I haven't looked at it, but it doesn't look like you have to have anything other than a compressor.
Jimmy, I have contacts or access to folks who are looking for water bodies to test their equipment on, to test their techniques. We might be talking about the same person. I sat through a presentation.
What was his name? Todd?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I did mention our lake, but I don't want to harp on this, but this is something that we should kind of be looking at and evaluating as part of, the committee that was in place that was supposed to be looking at these types of mitigation measures, but it's just not happening. So just, can you send me an email with that information? I'll let you know. I have a presentation, I have a contact. I just never followed up with it because I just never followed up. Let me know.
I think in other towns, some of it sits with the Conservation Commission because there is a public education portion, reducing things like, you know, lawn chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides. That's going to help with the nutrient pollution. Certainly there's infrastructure stuff, upgrading our storm water systems, so less is running directly into the lake. That those kind of elements feel kind of conservation oriented. And it certainly happens in other towns. So it's, I know we have a lot on our plates, something to think about.
Those were evaluated as part of that other committee and previous committees that Jim's been on. And I know, I don't want to speak for Bill or DPW, but like that recent project that you mentioned on the lake, those, you know, bioswales and those are part of their effort to reduce, you know, nutrients loading and stuff like that. So it has been, it's definitely something that they're working on. It's something that was brought up in those Clean Lake Committee meetings. It was prioritized. I don't know what else is going on with it though, as far as from Bill's end.
Oh, was there like a plan that was generated that could be circulated?
Not sure. It was
Okay.
4 years ago.
Talk to Bill. I can talk to Bill. Bill
Can
has-
I sent that to you. See if you got it.
The DEP noticed that this letter referenced that sort of started this conversation was all about PFAs. It was not about nutrients or anything like that. Apparently,
Yeah, it's
they
a different
detected
topic.
very low concentrations of PFAs, but present and high enough to be concerning in terms of human consumption in the fish.
PFA is what?
PFAs are those, they're polyfluorohydrocarbon. They're the residuals that come off of fireproofing materials and Teflon and all that kind of stuff. And they tend to be microparticles.
Yeah.
And they bioaccumulate. You're probably carrying them around in your tissues right now. I
Yeah.
think we all are.
Now that you say that, I saw a program on that.
They're
Yeah.
on everything. They're on pizza
Yeah.
boxes. It's on everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, they're ubiquitous in contemporary society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so they tend to end up in streams and they bioaccumulate fairly readily.
So a question I have is from that email, there's a bunch of questions associated with it, but that all came out of DPH, right? I mean, we don't have answers to, you know, what states have been contacted or, you know, where the PFAS came from or anything like that. I mean, we don't have any of those
I don't
answers,
think
right?
you could come up with
Right. I'm just wondering
a-
what was the angle of the email other than just public notice and people understanding it. It doesn't seem like, I don't think we have answers for some of this stuff.
No.
Well, Ken, I sent that to you. Did you get it?
I got it, but I can't look up a contact for.
Ken,
Oh,
can
okay.
I?
No. Yeah.
Can I ask you another question? Because I had called the fish call line, or kill line, a couple of weekends ago when I saw the fish floating, and I got somebody's mailbox twice. The dispatcher had said, "Oh, it's algae," you know, and I still asked to be forwarded to the person. I was a little unclear that they actually came out and tested on holiday weekends. But like, I guess what usually is supposed to happen? Like, does somebody come out and test? Isn't best practice when you see an event, you test after it and not, you know, months later?
I don't know what precipitated the testing or why they did it. I think Judy had mentioned that.
This most recent weekend, like just a week ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't read. Did the letter mention anything? Reasoning or?
No, I guess what happened was people saw the dead fish floating, and then coincidentally, you know, so there was speculation about what that was about, and then coincidentally, this email blast came from the town about the 2022 study of elevated PFAS levels.
That's not,
So,
it's an impaired water body, but that's not listed as a impairment that I know of, unless they've upgraded their, it was impaired because it had DDT in it and,
arsenic?
Arsenic,
I don't know
copper,
what.
arsenic,
There's a couple of other things in
metals,
it. Actually, it got
NGP
added to it.
waste.
But
Okay,
I
so
think, I think the nano bubbles, I sent it to you, Paul, too. Eleanor, do you want a copy of it?
sure.
So that would be separate from the PFAS issue. That-
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a
just to be
different thing.
clear.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds, I'm more excited about this than the solar bees. The solar bees were not
Oh,
a good,
God.
I know, everyone hated the solar bees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I think the only other follow-up item I had not related to the lake was Elaine, my to-do to consolidate some knotweed stuff for you.
Don't have you in mind.
So
All right,
maybe
I'll have to-
we can add that to the next agenda. And I'll send
Yep.
something around.
Okay,
What do you want to have a discussion about knotweed?
Yeah, I think the next one would be a good time. I'll try to send out, I tried to consolidate all the information you guys sent and sort of put it into a presentation format. Like, here are the 3 methods that are most used. Here's protocols. Here's who's using them. And then we can
To
kind of
do,
go from there.
to start a program or just to
I
have the
think-
information?
I think to start educating people. We can put it on the website. I think at some point we have to start educating people on these things. And we certainly need to work with the DPW and make sure we're doing sort of best practices around the lake, because that is the source of the Saugus River. So if we are, mowing and chopping little bits of knotweed, it's gonna, spread down the river and impact other people.
Mhm.
Were there examples of what other towns do in any of this stuff? Like with DPW's crews around water, how they handle it?
I am still working on that piece. I have something from
Wouldn't that-
Swamp Scott. Oh, sorry.
No, I think that would be the most
The
difficult
most
part.
important. I think so too. But I think potentially if getting them from mowing to cutting, that would be a better alternative,
What, around the lake?
Yeah, because if they're mowing, they're spreading it, right? And it's so hard to get rid of. So the first step is containing, whatever infestations we have.
Okay,
Yeah,
did you talk to
That
Dennis?
would be manpower too.
Yeah,
Did-
So that would be a bigger conversation.
I mentioned it to him. I gave him a heads up. But I'll circle back with him.
All right. Are we gonna discuss that later at another meeting? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Bronwyn, anything you want to add?
Yeah, thanks. I did ask the Board of Health, I've not heard back yet, if there was a follow-up on the fish kill, because people were saying, I don't know whether it was just an assumption that it was low DO levels, and
Well, that will do it.
well, that will do it, but with algae blooms usually come with sustained hot weather and a little later in the season. So not that it couldn't have been an algae bloom with the fish fish kill, but I just wanted to try to get a little background information as to who, if anyone, went out to verify or try to find the actual reasons by testing the water and doing oxygen level, because it seems a little early in the season for that to occur. It usually occurs a little bit later in the season. The other thing I've noticed, and I've been trying to get a hold of Joe Conway to talk with him about it, but Friends of the Lake are still counting geese, which the resident geese seem to be maintained, but there seem to be more and more of them. And that's a definite, particularly where the riparian zones are not as healthy as they used to be. I know Elaine and I, a few years back, talked about the where the hotel had cut it down, and it's a nice, healthy, robust riparian zone by the hotel now for the most part. But between the hotel and where the outdoor playground is for the daycare center, it's still a little sketchy, and there's still a lot of invasives in there, like yellow flag and stuff. So that has not really been maintained, and the geese tend to gather in that spot in particular. And so all of that waste is just, super fertilizer running into the lake. So the geese, the whole goose thing is an integral part of this lake and feeding that algae. And to Eleanor's point that she made earlier, I mean, I've been trying for years to get the DPW to have a vista-friendly riparian zone, some growth at the head of the lake, so that people can see the lake and enjoy the lake, and yet it would help. There's erosion there, and would help with the goose droppings running into the lake too. So it would help act as a little bit of a filter. But I'm curious as to if anyone determined the reason for the fish kill, because it's not unheard of, but it's not real common either. Thanks.
Okay. I don't know what the reason would be for them. I mean, it could be low dissolved oxygen. I know in the deepest part of the lake, they don't get the churning effect that the shallow parts have. And I know that I tested water with Mr. Murphy, and we were down at, almost zero in some of those spots. So
It's interesting because a few years back, though, when we were discussing solar bees and all of
Yeah.
the other options, the reports that came back were that the dissolved oxygen levels in the lake were generally good.
for the most, yes, that's why I'm saying that it's the middle. If you look at those bathymetric charts, there's that low area, it's around 10 feet, I think. There's a whole area that was like a dead zone. But yeah, you're right. Most of the other areas had plenty of O2 because
Do
they
the
get
nanobubbles stir up the sediment?
What's that?
Do the nanobubbles, does that technique roil up the sediment?
I don't know.
Because that would be a concern in Lake Q.
Well, but I tell you, I don't know. I'm promoting it, but I don't know enough about it yet. But what I do see, it looks like the most promising thing I've heard of yet. And it's basically because they're putting compressed air, not even just pure oxygen, just air, into this system. And these bubbles are tiny. They're microscopic bubbles. And they're seeing tremendous results from that article I had in a year. It's like unbelievable. I was hoping that, I know Bill said at one time, maybe we could find some money to do a little testing. Maybe we could do a test area on the lake and see if the system works. But, we go through all these things and we don't do anything. We just talk and talk and talk. I mean, at some point you got to try to, cut down the size of what we're trying to handle. And
Right.
Have you asked FOLQ to get involved? Maybe underwrite some of this?
no, I haven't asked. No, I haven't asked them anything yet.
I think they'd be interested. And then Bronwyn, to address sort of your question, I know the vice president had spoken to Dennis Fazio about leaving some buffer and letting the natural vegetation vegetate.
Yeah.
And they agreed on 2 areas that had more native vegetation, one along Hall Park and another near the playground, where it's kind of the extension of Spalding, of Gertrude Spalding Park. There's kind of a natural stand of clethra that would be really nice. But at some point, it would probably also be nice to have a list of plantings or things, because they tend to, maintain that part of the park. So if the commission had any suggestions, that might be helpful, consistent with the environment, at least. But I think that will help with some of the geese and education.
Yeah.
And they talked about putting up little signs with QR codes so you could sort of read what it was about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good idea. How do we implement it? That's what we got to figure out.
I think we have volunteers at Lake Quannapowitt who will do it.
Okay. Well, come up with a plan and we'll do it. So, all right. Haley, still here.
Are you suggesting that FLLQ has enough volunteers that it can marshal for that kind of work?
For this one, it's literally letting the vegetation go.
Right.
I've mapped. I went on iNaturalist, Bree Reynolds and I, and we sort of mapped out areas where there was good native vegetation, and just leaving it alone, just sticking up, little markers.
Stop mowing.
Don't do work. That's all it is.
Right. Don't work on it.
Yes, it's a don't work. We're going to stick a sign up, and then, a couple of us going in and maybe hand pulling some,
the invasives.
Some of the invasives. But this was like areas that I think you could let go natural and it wouldn't freak people out. It would actually look nice, and it would still look kind of maintained.
Right.
Yeah.
So like just a starting place.
Good idea.
So people get used to it.
Yeah. That's good thinking. I like that idea. All right. What else are we going to talk about? Are we all done?
We have a pile of applicants
Oh,
that
right.
Judy's been forwarding to us.
Yes, we do have a pile of applicants.
And
I think you should wait. It's only been posted a week, and
okay,
so it's starting to slow down. So I think if you wait to see
till
what
the
we
next
get
meeting.
for the next week, then
Okay.
it can be narrowed down.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I've sort of been going through as they've come in, and I've seen maybe 2 or 3 with some level of qualifications that and experience, and a lot of people, a lot of new new kids graduating, and people coming in from completely left field too.
Yeah.
So
I don't think the new grads was a surprise. And I mean, some of them have unbelievable backgrounds. So I don't think that would be a disqualifier.
Right.
So we'll see what, comes in this week.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Elaine, can I ask the Keith's tree thing that we were talking about before? You were going to follow up with them on that?
Yes, I was, but I taught 2 classes last week, and so I wasn't able to get to it on top of everything else, but it is at the top of my to-do list this week. I'll be talking to him about files of intent for management. With the classes, it just took up all of Friday. I couldn't get to it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. That's one thing we want to thank Elaine for. She's taught 8 students this year, and she has been welcomed back the next year, I believe. And I believe she can talk about it if she wants to, but I believe it was a very good success, and I hope we can keep going.
There were 4 second grade classes of about 20 apiece. And last Friday and the Friday before that, I taught 2 classes each day on the basics of wetlands and what the Conservation Commission does. And they were very good classes. And it would be nice one of the teachers said definitely we'd have to do it again next year. So we'll see what happens. But having said that, that's what pushed Keith's tree aside. But now that the classes are, Keith's is on top of the list again.
Okay.
Is there anything we can do to help you with that, Elaine?
No, I have to talk to him about filing a notice of intent. So I don't think there's anything, I mean, I thank you very much for the offer, but I need to talk to him about filing, about his management of the site.
Yeah, okay.
And then Haley, thank you for bringing that up because I keep forgetting about that neighbor that's putting all their yard waste. They have the ginormous yard and they're putting all the yard waste right by the little stream there. It mentioned it.
Where was that?
The same person.
Is it the
What?
same person
Yes,
as Keith's?
yes.
Huh, it looks like a different property. Okay,
He lives back there.
okay. So, yes, there's a lot of yard waste. I think I sent photos, or did I? I can send photos. That's been put right next to the sort of wetland area along Kelly's path.
Oh. Yeah,
So this is a separate issue other than the business?
I thought it was a neighbor. I didn't realize it was the same person who lives there. But that is also happening if you walk down Kelly's path.
I don't know what Kelly's path is.
Oh, it's that
Cross
sort of,
country track, the cross country path that they cut in.
right, but that's two different areas. I'm not sure what we're talking about anymore.
I'll send the picture. It's kind of on the back side of Keith's, but there's one long yard, and at the end of it, you know, it's one long yard of grass, and at the very end, all of the yard waste has been piled up by the wetland, and you can see it when you walk along Kelly's path.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
you're talking about, oh, I know who you're talking about. He's talking about Rufo.
I don't think so.
Maybe we need to take a walk. I'll show you.
Who do you think it is, Elaine? Judy? Who-
Eleanor has the pictures. You can see it on the assessor's map. You can pull it up.
But if she's up at, if she's up by Kelly's path, then his is down, Rufo's property is that big hill with all the pine trees on it.
This isn't a hill. It's a flat
Well, it looks like-
expanse. Oh, I'll send the photos again.
Oh, send the photo then, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear back from the Beaver people
Okay.
about the seminar, but I think you're still on the agenda for the Board of Health for the next meeting at the end of the month.
What's the day on that?
Wednesday, I don't know what the exact date is. I think it's the third Wednesday.
Mm.
I think I have that.
So I think the commission should come up with something like some type of collaborative approach with them, like collaborative site visits. I don't know what the Board of Health does if they go out and do a site visit, but I think it's something that should be more collaborative.
Okay.
Wait, were you gonna? No, go.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought my notes from the last meeting talk about a checklist that was going to be done, Judy? Do I remember that correctly? I have prepared a checklist.
I wasn't doing a checklist, no.
Say what?
I wasn't doing a checklist. I don't know about that.
Oh. All right, so,
We talked about a procedure so that there would be like a joint site visit with the commission and the Board of Health. Because I don't know I don't know if the Board of Health goes out and does a site visit. I don't know how they make a determination if they don't. But I think it should be something that's done jointly. So it's not just a decision made.
Mhm.
kind of in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Were you gonna put together that procedure from the last meeting, Judy?
I can do that. I was hoping to hear from the Beaver people, but I can
Okay,
throw something together.
okay.
Okay. All right, well,
Oh,
we'll get that information and we'll look at that.
and I think there was another, sorry, we got an email about bylaw review meeting at the end of June. I thought that all went to the commissioners.
The zoning recodification,
Okay,
right?
I might have been mistaken. I thought it was to review the bylaws. Okay,
They are reviewing all the zoning bylaws. That's what
Okay.
the recodification is.
okay.
So did they, what were they asking if the commission wanted?
I think it was like an invitation for us
Yeah,
to
I know.
attend,
Yeah, I
right?
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So
I don't
maybe you
know.
could attend and talk about the stream setback. Because I had gone to one early on and they suggested a wetland bylaw. Remember we talked about this months ago, a year ago, something,
Mhm.
when I went to the original zoning bylaw review meeting.
Do you have a draft bylaw? That's,
Yeah, there are about 100 of them.
okay. Do we have one we wanna work on soon?
Well, I don't know, but there's something, I want to change that bylaw that's in there now for
The zoning bylaw, the stream
the
setback.
the stream setback. Because that
You want to take it out,
never should have gone through,
right?
because they've got the building inspector telling us how to determine a bank. Or it's actually, they use the word embankment, which is something different than a bank. They're two totally separate things, even though they sound the same. And that needs to be modified so that we get control over that it's,
It needs to be taken out of zoning. So it's under
Yeah.
conservation. And that's what the attorney that's heading up the bylaw review had said. That if the commission had their own bylaw, that would be a good way.
So this seems more pressing. Is that something we can put on the next agenda to go through the bylaw or?
bylaw.
Yeah, wherever you guys landed. I don't know if there was a draft or a couple drafts or, things we wanted, things we didn't want, but it would be helpful ahead of the zoning review meeting and then also thinking about November town
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah. Well, yeah, we should, if you want, I mean, one thing, that's the one thing I'm concerned about. As far as other bylaws that you want for there, we'll have to brainstorm that and see what we come up with. I don't know what other things are that imperative that we need the bylaw for. What did you have in mind?
Memorializing the 25-foot setback, the performance bond.
I wanted to tie that into the stream.
Right, but you can't, you'd have to make a request to repeal the stream setback, so it's taken out of zoning, and then you create a conservation bylaw, a
Okay,
wetland bylaw. Because otherwise it defeats the purpose. You still have a parallel permitting process. That's
okay,
pointless.
yeah, I see.
Yeah, so maybe when you go to the bylaw review meeting, you can ask the attorney about repealing the stream setback, even
Yeah.
if you don't immediately put in a wetland if you're not ready to put together the wetland bylaw, the conservation wetland bylaw. Because right now it's not serving really a purpose, the stream setback. It's
No.
already covered under, I mean, we've gone over this.
Not used consistently and
No, and it's already covered under the commission's jurisdiction. We've gone over this, about
billion times.
several dozen times ago.
I think there are other towns that are doing, have the bare minimum out there and at least something's better than nothing.
I like the idea
Wetland bylaw.
Yes.
But the,
I'd like-
you have to make it something that is going to be able to pass town meeting. That's,
Yes, yes.
but the history with wetland bylaws is they've been shot down in a hail of gunfire at town meeting. So I think you need to have a very concise, well-prepared, well-supported presentation.
I think we saw a lot of support for conservation at the last town meeting. So maybe it would
But
go
it-
a different way this time.
Yeah, it can be tricky at town meeting because it can be a different set of people at any town meeting.
Well, we don't know until we try. But I agree with you. It's something simple and modest that memorializes the 25 feet.
Yeah, I think something like mandatory 25-foot setback can be altered at commission's discretion. And you want to have that flexibility. I don't want to just get locked into 25 feet. There's just too many houses
No,
in
but
Wakefield
right.
that don't have that kind of potential.
But that's why you have a bylaw, so you can have that's what the permit would be for, a variance to the bylaw. So it's not a hard and fast rule.
Judy, didn't you circulate something along those lines a while ago?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, I thought there was something that I reviewed maybe 2 months back.
Yeah, when Teresa was still, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
What was that for setback?
It was a bylaw draft, actually.
Oh, we should pull that out.
Yeah, can we recirculate ahead of the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, Teresa was gonna look at it because it was missing some elements, so I think you need to have a clear idea of how you want to go forward. If you want to do it in conjunction with repeal, I think you need to be clear on that before the conversation starts again with the bylaw, because then otherwise it goes around in a circle.
Well, it
Yeah,
sounds like you have, right, sorry, speak.
Well, I think we could at least read what you have as a starting point.
Right, but what is your end goal is what I'm saying. Are you looking to,
Do you want a new bylaw?
Don't we
right,
want
are
to,
you looking to see if it can be, I don't know if it can be done as part of this bylaw recodification. Maybe it can, maybe the repeal and the implementation of a wetland bylaw can be part of their article. That's what I think you may want to ask at the bylaw review,
yes,
if it can
But
be
it-
incorporated. I don't know if I have no idea if that's the case.
but it would be helpful to have something to start with, to start the conversation.
Well,
Yeah, it's time sensitive too, because you have to have public meetings and you have to have it, that's the thing. There's a lot of lead up to it.
Yeah, it almost feels like first thing we should do is hire a permanent person who can help us manage that process.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But I think you can ask about the setback bylaw and see what options are available to you for that, to at least
Yeah.
get that
Mm-hmm.
started.
So who's going to attend the bylaw review?
I guess
When
us.
is it?
I don't have much experience, so I don't know how much value I would add, but I'm interested in attending.
Mhm.
But I'm also interested in seeing what you guys had circulated and what you were thinking in terms of a replacement bylaw.
Okay, well, all I can say right now is the best way I think to go is to make it as simple as possible, and even if it was just one or two things that you want to try to handle.
Right, and it was the setback vernal pools and the performance bond.
The performance bond, I'm not too sure about.
Okay,
I just, anytime you talk about money, people go,
right, but it's like planning board, they put money up so that they do the work.
no, I know that.
So it's not
The town has to do the work, then they take the bond.
Right. But the planning board does it, the ZBA does it to ensure the stuff gets done. Their work gets done.
I think they're like in a different category. We're kind of really by ourselves when we talk about this stuff.
Other towns have, anyone who has a bylaw or wetland bylaw has a performance bond as part of
Okay,
it.
all right, forget it. Let's get a performance bond.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be a performance bond, Jimmy. I mean, every developer ought to be.
I just think knowing what I've gone through now, that anything to deal with money was a no-go.
But it's discretionary at the same time. You wouldn't necessarily enact a
That's fine.
performance.
I'm just saying, no, I'm just saying what my experience is. Doesn't mean it's right, just that's my
I
experience.
know what you mean, but before was different. It was about finding people. That was different. Because this is someone who came to you for a permit. Finding is separate from that. You know, I think that's what scared people off. And that's not something that's done anymore anyways, so that doesn't matter.
Okay,
But I think your focus should be what the path ahead should be, what the sequence should be. Can you repeal the setback first, the stream setback, and then, what the actual logistics are for that. Trying to, streamline it, incorporate them together. I think that's important.
okay,
Because just putting in the wetland bylaw and not repealing that is going to create the same problem that we have now. It's not going to alleviate anything.
okay, so you. All right,
I think that could be a discussion to have with the lawyer at the bylaw review. What does he think the best course is?
who is that?
The lawyer, Attorney Bobrowski, that the town contracted with. He's doing,
So do we have access to that person?
yeah, at the meeting, you can ask him.
Okay.
Is
When's
it
the meeting?
the end of June?
Okay,
I'll forward you the email.
all right, that's the plan. Is there anything else?
I have one last question. The meeting with the Board of Health on the third Wednesday in June. I think that's before our next meeting. So who's going to attend the meeting with the joint meeting with the Board of Health? Just want to make sure we have people lined up and we go in with an understanding of what we want from the Board of Health. So I guess my first question is, who's going to go?
Well, I can go. I've got all the stuff right here from the state. We just gotta, and you could help out with it,
Who?
You're
Elaine.
Oh, me, yeah. And then
you're
Judy.
you're talking about the 19th, right? The one that we've been talking about to go talk about the beavers?
Is that the 19th? So it's a day after our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good then. So we could put this on the next agenda for the 18th. And then the following night, we'd be in good shape for the Board of Health meeting.
Yeah.
So Judy, could you put it on the agenda for the 18th?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we can pull it all together then.
Okay. All right, that sounds like a wrap. Anything else in? Anything?
Well,
anyone-
as the resumes come through in the next couple of weeks, make sure, make a list of people that you want to interview something. So at the next meeting, we can figure out who you want to interview.
Okay, that's another good idea.
Good, I'll do that. We should compare notes at the next meeting and then come up with a final list to pursue.
One thing I did notice with a lot of these applications is that I feel they're deficient on hands-on part of it, getting into the wetlands, doing the delineations.
None of them have mentioned any experience with that.
What?
None of them
Only-
have mentioned any experience with that. But I think,
Well,
Only
I
one
think
has
it's-
mentioned anything about the Wetlands Protection Act. Only one has
Mhm.
mentioned anything about being a conservation commissioner.
right. But even she didn't mention any field. I mean, it wasn't specific enough in her, I don't think, in her cover letter.
Didn't she list that she covered the
Yeah, she
conservation
covered as an
agency?
agent. kind
For
of
a couple of
part-time.
months.
Yeah, well, that's better than
Right,
everybody else.
right.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
still would need, I mean. I think there was some applicants that had good backgrounds that wouldn't have a problem picking things up.
yeah. But a lot of the stuff was laboratory work.
Hmm.
And so we need someone that's like Rebecca. You know,
Yeah.
that
My
gets
concern
right out
is
there and
we don't, I don't think we could train people.
no, we're not,
People who
well,
come
we've got
in
Elaine. Elaine could train anyone.
But
But she only has 5 hours.
you know what I mean? If someone comes in with zero experience in something, we can't train them.
But I think it's gonna be difficult. I mean, maybe someone will come up that has experience in field work. I don't know. And maybe there's an opportunity that they could mentor with a neighboring community, something like that. If there was someone that you thought had potential, but didn't have the field work.
So what I could do is, I could continue, I've been doing the review of the wetlands delineations for a while now, even with Rebecca here. And I could over a period of time, and I'm not going anywhere, so I could over a period of time help that person get that kind of training along with the MACC classes. That's how I learned, basically, back when I started this. I don't even think there were professional wetland scientists and whatnot, but I took the MACC or the DEP classes on how to do a delineation. And just by power of repetition over time, it became more clear. And for the really complex ones, we still hire a peer reviewer. I could certainly train somebody with preparing the documents. That wouldn't be too hard. And over time, that person would pick it up as any new employee does. I think that somewhere along the line, you have to make a decision among the applicants you have. So you're going to have to pick somebody. I will be happy to do what I can to help train them. Unless you're going to continue to just roll over and keep advertising. I mean, is there a deadline here where you say, all right, we've let it run for 30 or 60 days. We've got X number of resumes in, let's just choose one? Or are you going to just keep rolling it over until you find you're a better person?
What I have noticed on the postings, if you try to look, like you do a Google search for Wakefield Conservation Agent, the position appears on sites like Indeed or those job boards with no qualifications, just a driver's license.
But
So
there's a link to the town posting, and in that you have to fill out the application, and the qualifications are in there.
But I think you're going to lose somebody at the beginning. If I saw that and I had experience, and I saw all they needed was a driver's license, I probably would just skip over that. I wouldn't bother applying. I don't know if there's a way to.
But the position is posted as a conservation agent, I presume.
It's a conservation agent, but I think you're getting a lot of people with no experience.
Right.
And then I didn't see it listed on the MACC website.
Yeah, last time they delayed posting it for some reason. MACC did.
Okay.
There weren't any, I don't think they got any hits from that.
I
HR.
think we got one, that person who had worked on a conservation commission.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that as well, but I looked earlier today and I didn't see it up there either.
But I sent it to the circuit rider and she sent it out to her group. So that's a broader, more focused group to see it. And there are just so many, there are so many open positions out there. That's,
Yeah.
and it's, I think it's a limited market that
Right.
it would be interested.
Well, I guess I do. Yeah. We can talk, make a list of our favorites and talk at the next one.
I think that's where we need to go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We've got quite a few actually to look at.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
so we're gonna call it a night.
I'll move to adjourn.
Have a second?
A second.
Second.
Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Bye.
Wait a minute, that's my list. Eleanor,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
and I say yes.
See you
Good
all.
night.
See you
Thank you
all
very much.
Monday.